welcome. My name is Ravindra Meshram, and I've got Anmar Al-Gharifi from Eversheds Sutherland, who's a partner in Saudi Arabia. And we are going to ask him a few questions about the payment landscape and, if someone wants to enter into the Saudi Arabian market, how the opportunities look like. So, Anmar, thank you for your time. And
Thank you, Ravindra, for having me.
Great, pleasure is mine. So my first question to you is, how do you see the current, payment landscape in Saudi Arabia? How it has evolved, or how it is evolving further?
Of course. Thank you very much, Ravindra, for giving me this opportunity. And maybe just by way of a bit of a background, my name's Anmar Al-Gharifi, and I head the corporate commercial practice of the local affiliation of Eversheds Sutherland in Saudi Arabia. I'm based out of Riyadh. Of course, it's always a pleasure to meet you and all the esteemed members. Um, so in Saudi Arabia, the payment service is actually regulated by the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, which was formerly known as SAMA. There was a restructuring that took place very recently to the central bank, and it was now named as the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia. It is the sole technical regulator, if you wish, to the payment services. Of course, there are other regulators which you will need to interact with for the purposes of setting up your corporate presence. Of course, that's the Ministry of Investment in case of foreign investment, and the Ministry of Commerce for the purposes of issuing the corporate documents. In January 2020, the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, which was known as SAMA at the time, issued the payment services regulations. Of course, that followed a regulatory sandbox phase, which took place prior to that. And after that regulatory sandbox testing phase, the payment services regulations, or the PSR, were issued. And again, today, the central bank is the overseeing regulator of the payment services. The regulations are pretty clear on the types of licenses that the payment service provider can issue. And as per the regulations, there are four types of licenses, which is a micropayment institution, a major payment institution, and a micro money institution, and a payment money institution. Of course, there are certain limitations for each type of license, and there are certain requirements, which of course we can touch upon shortly. But the process, again, it was driven by the central bank following the implementation of a number of government payment, e-payment solution initiatives. And these include Sharia. And Sharia, it's an interbank, inter-Saudi bank payment application, which allows for a speedy transfer between local Saudi banks. And then, of course, we had MADA, and MADA used to be known as PAN, and then the Saudi Arabia Payment Network, and it was changed into MADA, which is also the network that governs the ATM card-based payments. And then we have Sadad, which literally means payments. And Sadad, basically, it's an online portal to cover or to service customers who are willing to make any government payments. And to be honest with you, Saudi Arabia has made huge steps in this field, and it's being considered now a pioneer in the region. The size of the transactions in the Saudi market, the ease of access to all of these portals, and actually the satisfaction rates by the users are unprecedented.
It's really encouraging to hear that. And Saudi Arabia has also recently published a Vision 2030, and
Yes,
one of the section is around financial sector development program. So,
yes.
Anwar, what does it really mean to the organizations who are outside of Saudi Arabia looking to make a market entry? So what sort of market opportunities are available for them, and are there any entry barriers? What sort of barriers they will face?
Okay. So again, under the Vision 2030, as you have stated, the one of the key pillars was the financial sector development program. And one of the sub pillars of that program is to the facilitation of government payments and e-payment systems. And actually, the sandbox process, which I just mentioned, and the consequent issuance of the PSR payment services regulations were all part of those initiatives by the Saudi 2030 vision. Today in Saudi Arabia, you have a very advanced investment environment. The rule of law is highly respected here in Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi government and all of the Saudi institutions are taking, again, huge steps into encouraging foreign investors to come into Saudi Arabia. That said, today, all of the payment service activities are open for foreign investors without actually the need to have a local partner or any local participation. Any foreign company, which is basically a company that its capital is partially or fully owned by non-Saudi or non-GCCs, basically they can apply for any type of those licenses. And again, subject to fulfilling the requirements and conditions, they will get that license. One thing I would like to mention here is that a foreign investment in Saudi Arabia is a phased approach. And basically, it starts with the Ministry of Investment, where a company or an organization files its application to issue an investment license. And then it would go to the Ministry of Commerce to finalize the corporate steps and the corporate documents. And of course, if there are any requirements for any special regulators, these all normally can be done following the incorporation of the company. In the case of SAMA, foreign investors, or sorry, in the case of the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia as the regulators, foreign investors who are interested into entering the market can actually have initial discussions with the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia prior to initiating the incorporation process. There is an option whereby a conditional license can be issued, or I would say a non-objection letter by the Central Bank would be issued for the foreign investor in order for the foreign investor to fulfill the rest of the steps of the incorporation steps. And basically, there will be a time frame given for the investor to complete and to fulfill all of these requirements and steps. The technical requirements, if you wish, for issuing the payment services licenses basically include capital adequacy. So there has to be a minimum capital threshold for each type of license. The legal form and organizational structure, and normally there is a specific legal form for certain types of licenses. So they cannot be a limited liability companies in certain instances. They have to be a joint stock company, for example. Outsourcing arrangements, key management, internal policies, customer contractual arrangements, IT infrastructure. All of these issues will go as part of the application that you would file with the central bank for the license. And if there is one advice I would give to anyone who's interested in penetrating the Saudi market in this sector, and that would be to be prepared to do the homework. The Saudi authorities are quite investor friendly, but at the same time, they are looking for actual investments that are willing to invest in the Saudi market and that would add value to the market. And therefore, applications that I would say were not prepared in an adequate manner might be rejected. And we have seen a lot of instances where the technical proposals were not up to par. There was a bulk of missing information which were not provided within the provided time frame. But that said, if you are well prepared, if the homework is done well, I think it's basically an easy process. You have to go through it, but eventually you will get your license. And the good thing is that the Saudi authorities would support you. So the Ministry of Investment would provide investor support. The central bank would provide investor support. All of that actually is something that can be done as long as the basic elements of the application are available and ready to be filed in accordance with the regulations.
That's great, really. So I like the point, the advice that you made on do your homework well. So on that point, I mean, what sort of support is available locally. For someone who doesn't know the topography of the market, is there government support available to navigate through the process, and from start to finish, to become the company operational, what sort of duration one should be looking at?
Okay, great. So I think yes, probably on the first point, the type of support available. So the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia, they have an investor services department. They have a service email which is quite active, and therefore, if a foreign investor has any questions or any doubts or any queries about the process, they can simply reach out to them through email or through a phone call. It's quite an active department. You will find representatives of the Ministry of Investment being very proactive and engaging with investors, providing any needed information. The Central Bank of Saudi Arabia as well will appoint a liaison officer or a contact person for an applicant through which all queries, clarifications, requirements can be addressed. And they are as well, based on our previous experience, they are quite proactive and they are quite engaging. The entire investment environment in Saudi Arabia is investor friendly. So just to let you go, if you are not looking to issue or to incorporate a company which requires a special regulator license, like in our case, so if it's a company that doesn't need any special licenses, the entire process actually can be concluded within less than 2 weeks, from filing to getting your commercial registration certificate. Of course, there is a prep time, which is the time that is needed for the applicant or for the investor to provide its corporate documents, powers of attorneys, and all of that. But from the moment these documents are delivered in Saudi Arabia and they are attested up to the Saudi embassy and ready to be filed, the process can be done within as little as 2 weeks, and we've seen even less than that. However, in our case, since there is a special regulator, which is SAMA, and which is quite technically involved in the application, given that the application itself is quite detailed, it entails a lot of details, it will all go down to the prep time. So if all your policies are ready and in a manner that can be filed with SAMA, all your fit and proper forms are done, your key management personnel are there, your infrastructure plan, your contractual documents, adequate, all of these. If these are ready, I think the process with SAMA, I've seen it done within 2 to 3 months, and I've seen it done with others that took even more than 10 to a year, and that goes back to doing the homework and making sure that the prep time, was done properly and that the applicant invested in that.
Fantastic, Anmar. Thank you so much for all your valued inputs, and I'm sure the organizations who will watch this video will find it very useful, if they are wanting to enter into the Saudi Arabian market. Thank you so much, Anmar.
With pleasure, Ravinda. Thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure.